Okay, folks, we're going to be doing something a little more involved than my normal video today. A few days ago, I made up a new billet of Damascus. I'm not going to go through the whole welding, stacking and welding the Damascus together. I've done that in a previous video. If you want to, you can go back and find that. We're going to start with the billet. We're going to forge it out into a blade. I'm going to fit a simple finger guard onto it. And we'll see how everything turns out in the end. Anyway, thanks in advance for watching. Be sure and hit that like button. Be sure and subscribe to the channel. I've got some requests for some content that's coming up. Just haven't gotten around to it yet. Anyway, here we go. Let's see what happens. Well, let's get right to it. Here at the power hammer, I'm going to draw a little taper on the end that's going to be the Tang. Right now I'm just trying to even things up a little bit. Make sure our thickness is good. Still working that thickness. Now I'm just going to take a bit of square bar and set down to narrow the part that's going to be the Tang a little more. You see I'm working that square bar out the hammer lengthwise and drawing the Tang out. Drawing the Tang out and down. Now we'll bring it back to the right thickness. And now I'm going to set in my shoulders. My power hammer has a radius on the edges, so I'm not putting a square edge in there. If you put a square edge in there, you're asking for a failure later. Square edges are bad on a blade. Should always be a little bit of rounding in a corner. A square edge is a place to set up for a cold shut or otherwise a weak spot. I'm just going to draw the Tang down. I want to taper in thickness and in width. I really need to find a better way to set my camera up. All right, there we go. You can see there's a couple of little spots right there where it didn't round over quite enough. And I don't want that to set up for a failure later, so I'm going to go and address that on the grinder. Now that that's done, we're going to come back and draw out the heel of the blade first on the power hammer. And I got to apologize for the bad angle here. I need to get a taller tripod. You can see that's drawn the heel down some. Work the thickness of the blade out, put a little distal taper in it. There we go. A little more distal taper. Now we're going to come back and using the power hammer, we're going to draw down the bevel. It's exactly the same thing as working between the hand hammer and the anvil. Just a little faster. Anybody that's watched any of my videos knows that it's really not that much trouble to draw down the bevel with a hand hammer. But it's right about 104 degrees in the forge, and I'm trying to get it done a little quicker. Make sure everything's even, and we'll go to the anvil to finish up. Okay, so what we're going to do is draw down our bevels a little more and go back and tidy up the thickness of the edge a little bit. I'm going to leave the edge pretty thick, because since this is a Damascus blade, it's going to have quite a bit of sanding done on it in order to get the edge to show properly. And I need that thickness. Also, while I'm dressing the edge, I'm also taking out the hammer marks from the power hammer and fine-tuning the profile. I need to sweep the tip up a little more. That's one thing about the power hammer. When you're forging with a power hammer, I've never figured out how to get the tip to curve upward on the bevel the way I want it to. But maybe I'll get it figured out one day. I know there are people out there that can forge a blade to finish on the power hammer. I'm not one of them. So everything comes to the anvil. But we're getting there. I've almost got the profile I want. I'm satisfied that there are no hammer marks left in the steel. The edge thickness is where I want it. Any final dress up on the profile I can do with the grinder. But there we go. If you're hearing a clicking noise, it's one of my dogs running around on the hardwood floor. All right, time to move on to something else, and let's start thinking about getting the guard fitted on this blade. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my touch mark into the blade, right in the ricasso. Didn't get a good strike, but it'll have to do. All right, so this is our starting stock. It's a piece of 3/4 inch mild steel. I've drilled 2 holes and then chiseled out the webbing in between them, and we're going to hot fit this steel in order to fabricate the guard. And this is a tool that I'll be using to hammer the guard down onto the blade. Now you can see I've pulled a really good heat in that 3/4 stop. Hammer down on there, both directions to make sure it stays straight. Got to kind of work quick. You don't want the guard material to cool too quickly, and you don't want the tang of the blade to get too hot. It's going to take a couple heats because you really need to hammer that guard in far enough to really sink it down around the ricasso. There we go. Smack it a few more times. Check to see if it satisfies me. Not quite deep enough yet, I don't believe. So we'll do it one more time. And this is the way this was traditionally done. One of the ways it was traditionally done. And I think it gives it a good, nice, tidy fit. Okay, folks. So, we got the blade. Just give it a little rough grind. Knocked it down a little bit before the heat treat. Left it nice and thick because after the heat treat, there's going to be a lot of scale I'll have to grind off. We'll bring it down to a pretty smooth finish to etch it, bring out the Damascus pattern. And here's our finished guard. Nice tight fit. Now that's not a super neat fit like you get if you use modern manufacturing methods, but that's not what I want. I'm looking for something that looks a little old-fashioned. And there are going to be some discrepancies in the way the fit-up is when you do things by hand. A lot of the historical pieces, if you actually get them and look at them, they're not machine perfect. And if you're doing historically accurate, it's not going to be machine perfect. If you're doing something historically inspired, it's not going to be machine perfect. So this fit is plenty good. Anyway, if you're still here, thanks very much for watching. Be sure and hit that like button. Be sure and subscribe to the channel. God bless and have a great day.